Hey folks, today we will be talking about Orcatorch dive torches. I've got a couple of those and I actually think they're doing a really good job, but there is a common complaint, which is the button. People experience that over time the light can flood and water gets into the light through the button. It's easily preventable and I want to show you how to do it. For that you will need a set of pliers, a O-ring pick, we're going to need that a couple of times, and then also a bit of grease. For this I use silicone grease, but use the stuff that you are used to do. So let's start with the issue first. Orcatorch does a very good job in telling all about the O-rings, and in particular if you turn off the canister you can see, as they tell you, that there are 3 independent O-rings, which is of course really great in order to make sure that the connection between the lid and the canister is tight. However, there's another place where there's an O-ring, and that is inside the button, and unfortunately there's only one. So therefore it is really important to take a look at that once in a while. The way I do it is, first of all, you need to remove the retaining nut, and for that I use a simple set of pliers. So if we put it a little bit closer to the camera, you can see that there are notches. There's one here, one on the other side, one on each side again. So obviously it would be nice if you have a special tool for it, but if you don't have it, you can use a set of pliers. So the way I do it, with one hand, kind of combined grip, put one side of the pliers on the top and the other one on the opposite, and then put a bit of force in there, just enough, not too much, just enough to be able to twist it around. Once you've given it a few rounds, then you can actually do it manually just by using your fingers. A quick note, if you have one of the newer versions, you might only have 3 notches. It makes it a bit more tricky, but you can still get it off in this way. Now the retaining nut is almost off, and now I take it fully off. This is the nut, the ring. We're not going to need it, so I'll just put it down. And then you can lift out the whole button construction. Looks like this. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. If you take a look inside, it's a bit hard to see, but there's a white area, and in that a black dot. That is actually the dip switch, which is mounted on the printed circuit board, the electronics board inside your light. Now, the way it works is that through this button, it can actually be pushed down, and this end will push down on the button that we were just looking at. Now for the important part, right? If you take a very close look, you can see there's an O-ring, and there's only one, right? Not 3, but this O-ring can actually get dirty, and it needs to be, cleaned, but it also needs to be greased once in a while. So the way to do that is actually just to take your O-ring picker, take it off, and then, as always, put a bit of grease on the O-ring. So that's what we're going to do now. Take a bit of your silicone grease, or what you use for greasing your O-rings. As always, just enough, not too much, but just enough to get it fully saturated. So this is the way to do it. Of course, if it's very dirty, you might have to clean the O-ring first. And then basically you just want to put it back on. Once you do that, make sure that it's very clean. So if this part of the button is not really clean, make sure to clean it before. Put back on your O-ring and basically ready to mount it all together. Now, before you mount it back, it is actually a bit important to look at this area, because in here you can find dirt, calc, salt, and all kind of other things that shouldn't be there. So make sure to give it a good clean and make sure it is properly aligned, because that is actually where the O-ring needs to tighten. Once you've done all of that, you basically want to put it together. So the button goes on first and then the retaining ring on top. Now, eventually, when the knot is tightened, it will end up here. So the closed position is there and the open position is there. And we want to make sure that when we tighten the ring, the pointy edge of the button itself stays in between the two markers on the retaining ring. And that might require a bit of getting used to. The way I do it is I just put it in the open position, put it down with one, and then just use my fingers to get the knot in place, right? The ring, the retaining ring. It will only get you kind of almost through, but not all the way. And then finally you need to resort on your pliers, but make sure that the pointy part of the button is actually in between this position and that position. So button is in the right position. I'll just put on my pliers once again, and then obviously turn the ring and keep the button in place in the same time, right? So not always that easy, but eventually you will get there. Of course, it's important that this gets tightened. Don't over tighten it, but make sure it is tightened. And the way to look at it is, if the markers on the retaining ring are in the right position, then actually your line should be fine. One way to look at it is, if you push this, it shouldn't make a sound. It should just be able to push. One of the early warnings that your light is just about to flood is when you do this and you hear a squeezy sound, then actually water is already getting in there, dirt is building up, and it is really urgent to do this small maintenance trick. Once you're working with that anyways, you might as well get the 3 O-rings off and give them a bit of grease. Make sure they're clean. Make sure the area which they are tightening is also clean. Give them a bit of grease, put them back on, and of course repeat that for all the 3 O-rings while you're at it. As always, this is at your own risk. Having said that, I've done this on all my Orcatorch lights, and that actually prevented quite a lot of problems for the lights flooding. So I hope this was helpful for you, and see you next time with dive equipment tips.